Hey there, folks! Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Utah, a state in the United States. So, let's get started. Utah, the 13th largest state in the U.S., is nestled in the western region of the country. Its name, derived from the Ute tribe, means people of the mountains. Utah's history is rich, dating back to the prehistoric era, with the first inhabitants arriving around 12,000 years ago. Utah is known for its diverse geography, including the Great Salt Lake, the Wasatch Range, and the Colorado Plateau. Its geology is equally intriguing, with over 1,000 different rock types found within its borders. Utah is home to a diverse population, with over 3.2 million residents. Its economy is driven by industries such as mining, technology, and tourism. Utah's transportation system is well developed, with major highways, airports, and railways connecting the state to the rest of the country. Utah's law and government are unique, with a strong focus on individual rights and responsibilities. Utah is home to several major cities and towns, including Salt Lake City, Provo, and Ogden. Utah is also home to numerous colleges and universities, including the University of Utah, Brigham Young University, and Utah State University. Utah's culture is a blend of Western, Native American, and Mormon influences, making it a fascinating place to explore. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Utah. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to follow and subscribe for more exciting content. Until next time, take care. Hey there, folks! Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Utah, a state in the United States. So, let's get started. Utah, the 13th largest state in the U.S., is nestled in the western region of the country. Its name, derived from the Ute tribe, means people of the mountains. Utah's history is rich, dating back to the prehistoric era, with the first inhabitants arriving around 12,000 years ago. Utah is known for its diverse geography, including the Great Salt Lake, the Wasatch Range, and the Colorado Plateau. Its geology is equally intriguing, with over 1,000 different rock types found within its borders. Utah is home to a diverse population, with over 3.2 million residents. Its economy is driven by industries such as mining, technology, and tourism. Utah's transportation system is well developed, with major highways, airports, and railways connecting the state to the rest of the country. Utah's law and government are unique, with a strong focus on individual rights and responsibilities. Utah is home to several major cities and towns, including Salt Lake City, Provo, and Ogden. Utah is also home to numerous colleges and universities, including the University of Utah, Brigham Young University, and Utah State University. Utah's culture is a blend of Western, Native American, and Mormon influences, making it a fascinating place to explore. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Utah. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to follow and subscribe for more exciting content. Until next time, take care. Utah is a landlocked state in the Mountain West subregion of the western United States. It is one of the Four Corners states, sharing a border with Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico. It also borders Wyoming to the northeast, Idaho to the north, and Nevada to the west. In comparison to all the U.S. states and territories, Utah, with a population of just over 3 million, is the 13th largest by area, the 30th most populous, and the 11th least densely populated. Urban development is mostly concentrated in two regions, the Wasatch Front in the north-central part of the state, which includes the state capital, Salt Lake City, and is home to roughly two-thirds of the population, and Washington County in the southwest, which has approximately 180,000 residents. Most of the western half of Utah lies in the Great Basin. Utah has been inhabited for thousands of years by various indigenous groups, such as the ancient Puebloans, the Navajo, and the Ute. The first Europeans to arrive in the mid-16th century were the Spanish. Because of the region's challenging geography and harsh climate, it only became a peripheral part of New Spain and later of Mexico. Even while it was Mexican territory, many of the Utah region's earliest European settlers were from the United States. Notable among these were Mormons who were fleeing marginalization and persecution in the United States and arrived via the so-called Mormon Trail. In 1848, after the Mexican-American War, the region was annexed by the U.S., becoming part of the Utah Territory, which included what later became Colorado and Nevada. Disputes between the dominant Mormon community and the federal government delayed Utah's admission as a state. In 1896, after it agreed to outlaw polygamy, it was admitted as the 45th state. People from Utah are known as Utahns. Slightly over half of all Utahns are Mormons, the vast majority of whom are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints LDS Church, which has its world headquarters in Salt Lake City. 12. Utah is the only state where a majority of the population belongs to a single church. 13. The LDS Church greatly influences Utah's culture, politics, and daily life. 14. Though since the 1990s the state has become more religiously diverse as well as secular. Utah has a highly diversified economy, with major sectors including transportation, education, information technology and research, government services, mining, multi-level marketing, and tourism. 15. Utah has been one of the fastest-growing states since 2000. 16. With the 2020 U.S. Census confirming the fastest population growth in the nation since 2010. St. George was the fastest-growing metropolitan area in the United States from 2000 to 2005. 17. It has the 12th highest median average income and the least income inequality of any U.S. state. Over time and influenced by climate change, droughts in Utah have been increasing in frequency and severity. 18. Putting a further strain on Utah's water security and impacting the state's economy. 19. Etymology. Name Utah derives from the name of the Ute tribe, meaning people of the mountains. 20. However, no such word exists in the Utes language, and the Utes refer to themselves as Nuchi. The meaning of Utes as the mountain people has been attributed to the neighboring Pueblo Indians. 21. As well as to the Apache word Yutahai, which means one that is higher up or those that are higher up. 20. In Spanish, it was pronounced Utah. Subsequently, English-speaking people may have adapted the word as Utah. 22. History. Main article, History of Utah pre-Columbian. Also, Native Americans in Utah map showing Utah in 1838 when it was part of Mexico, Britannica 7th edition. Thousands of years before the arrival of Europeans, the ancestral Puebloans and the Fremont people lived in what is now known as Utah, some of which spoke languages of the Uto-Aztecan group. Ancestral Pueblo peoples built their homes through excavations in mountains, and the Fremont people built houses of straw before disappearing from the region around the 15th century. Another group of Native Americans, the Navajo, settled in the region around the 18th century. In the mid-18th century, other Uto-Aztecan tribes, including the Gashute, the Paiute, the Shoshone, and the Ute people, also settled in the region. These 5 groups were present when the first European explorers arrived. 23-24 main articles, New Spain, the California's history, First Mexican Empire, Provisional Government of Mexico, First Mexican Republic, and Centralist Republic of Mexico. Southern Utah region was explored by the Spanish in 1540, led by Francisco Vizquez de Coronado while looking for the legendary Cibola. A group led by 2 Catholic priests, sometimes called the Dominguez Escalante expedition, left Santa Fe in 1776, hoping to find a route to the coast of California. The expedition traveled as far north as Utah Lake and encountered the native residents. The Spanish made further explorations in the region but were not interested in colonizing the area because of its desert nature. In 1821, the year Mexico achieved its independence from Spain, the region became known as part of its territory of Alta California. European trappers and fur traders explored some areas of Utah in the early 19th century from Canada and the United States. The city of Provo, Utah, was named for one Tien Provost, who visited the area in 1825. The city of Ogden, Utah, was named after Peter Skeen Ogden, a Canadian explorer who traded furs in the Weber Valley. In late 1824, Jim Bridger became the first known English-speaking person to sight the Great Salt Lake. Due to the high salinity of its waters, he thought he had found the Pacific Ocean. He subsequently learned this body of water was a giant salt lake. After the discovery of the lake, hundreds of American and Canadian traders and trappers established trading posts in the region. In the 1830s, thousands of migrants traveling from the eastern United States to the American West began to make stops in the region of the Great Salt Lake, then known as Lake Utah. 25 Latter-day Saints settlement. 1847 main articles, Mexican-American War, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and Mexican cession. Brigham Young led the first Mormon pioneers to the Great Salt Lake. Following the death of Joseph Smith in 1844, Brigham Young, as president of the Quorum of the 12, became the leader of the LDS Church in Nauvoo, Illinois. 26 To address the growing conflicts between his people and their neighbors, Young agreed with Illinois Governor Thomas Ford in October 1845 that the Mormons would leave by the following year. 27 Young and the first group of Mormon pioneers reached the Salt Lake Valley on July 24, 1847. Over the next 22 years, more than 70,000 pioneers crossed the plains and settled in Utah. 28. For the first few years, Brigham Young and the thousands of early settlers of Salt Lake City struggled to survive. The arid desert land was deemed desirable by the Mormons as a place where they could practice their religion without harassment. Settlers buried 36 Native Americans in one grave after an outbreak of measles occurred during the winter of 1847-29. The first group of settlers brought 3 African slaves with them, making Utah the only place in the western United States to have African slavery. The 3 slaves, Green Flake, Harkley, and Oscar Crosby, came west with the first group of settlers in 1847-31. Utah was a Mexican territory when the first pioneers arrived in 1847. Early in the Mexican-American War in late 1846, the United States had taken control of New Mexico and California. The entire Southwest became U.S. territory upon the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, February 2, 1848. The treaty was ratified by the United States Senate on March 11. Learning that California and New Mexico were applying for statehood, the settlers of the Utah area, originally having planned to petition for territorial status, applied for statehood with an ambitious plan for a state of deseret. The Mormon settlements provided pioneers for other settlements in the West. Salt Lake City became the hub of a far-flung commonwealth, 32 of Mormon settlements. With new church converts coming from the East and around the world, church leaders often assigned groups of church members as missionaries to establish other settlements throughout the West. They developed irrigation to support fairly large pioneer populations along Utah's Wasatch Front, Salt Lake City, Bountiful and Weber Valley, and Provo and Utah Valley, 33. Throughout the remainder of the 19th century, Mormon pioneers established hundreds of other settlements in Utah, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, Wyoming, California, Canada, and Mexico, including in Las Vegas, Nevada, Franklin, Idaho, the first European settlement in Idaho, San Bernardino, California, Mesa, Arizona, Star Valley, Wyoming, and Carson Valley, Nevada. Prominent settlements in Utah included St. George, Logan, and Mandy, where settlers completed the LDS Church's first 3 temples in Utah, each started after but finished many years before the larger and better-known temple built in Salt Lake City was completed in 1893, as well as Parowan, Cedar City, Bluff, Moab, Vernal, Fillmore, which served as the territorial capital between 1850 and 1856, Nephi, Levin, Spanish Fork, Springville, Provo, Bench now Orem, Pleasant Grove, American Fork, Leahy, Sandy, Murray, Jordan, Centerville, Farmington, Huntsville, Kaysville, Grantsville, Toole, Roy, Brigham City, and many others smaller. Young had an expansionist view of the territory that he and the Mormon pioneers were settling, calling it deseret, which according to the Book of Mormon was an ancient word for honeybee. This is symbolized by the beehive on the Utah flag and the state's motto, Industry, 34 Utah Territory 18501-896 Main Articles, Organic Act, List of Organic Acts, Utah Territory, Admission to the Union, and List of U.S. states by date of admission to the Union. The Golden Spike, where the first transcontinental railroad was completed in the U.S. on May 10, 1869, in Promontory, Utah. The Utah Territory was much smaller than the proposed state of Deseret, but it still contained all of the present states of Nevada and Utah as well as pieces of modern Wyoming and Colorado, 35. It was created with the Compromise of 1850, and Fillmore, named after President Millard Fillmore, was designated the capital. The territory was given the name Utah after the Ute tribe of Native Americans. Salt Lake City replaced Fillmore as the territorial capital in 1856. By 1850, there were around 100 black people in the territory, the majority of whom were slaves, 36. In Salt Lake County, 26 slaves were counted, 29. In 1852, the territorial legislature passed the Act in relation to service and the Act for the Relief of Indian Slaves and Prisoners, formally legalizing slavery in the territory. Slavery was abolished in the territory during the Civil War. In 1850, Salt Lake City sent out a force known as the Nauvoo Legion and engaged the Timpanogos in the battle at Fort Utah. Disputes between the Mormon inhabitants and the U.S. government intensified due to the practice of plural marriage, or polygamy, among members of the LDS Church. The Mormons were still pushing for the establishment of a state of Deseret with the new borders of the Utah Territory. Most, if not all, of the members of the U.S. government opposed the polygamous practices of the Mormons. Members of the LDS Church were viewed as un-American and rebellious when news of their polygamous practices spread. In 1857, particularly heinous accusations of abdication of government and general immorality were leveled by former Associate Justice William W. Drummond, among others. The detailed reports of life in Utah caused the administration of James Buchanan to send a secret military expedition to Utah. When the supposed rebellion should be quelled, Alfred Cumming would take the place of Brigham Young as territorial governor. The resulting conflict is known as the Utah War, nicknamed Buchanan's Blunder by the Mormon leaders. In September 1857, about 120 American settlers of the Baker-Fancher wagon train, en route to California from Arkansas, were murdered by Utah Territorial Militia and some Paiute Native Americans in the Mountain Meadows Massacre. 38 Before troops led by Albert Sidney Johnston entered the territory, Brigham Young ordered all residents of Salt Lake City to evacuate southward to Utah Valley and sent out the Nauvoo Legion to delay the government's advance. Although wagons and supplies were burned, eventually the troops arrived in 1858, and Young surrendered official control to Cumming, although most subsequent commentators claim that Young retained true power in the territory. A steady stream of governors appointed by the president quit the position, often citing the traditions of their supposed territorial government. By agreement with Young, Johnston established Camp Floyd, 40 miles 60 km away from Salt Lake City to the southwest. Salt Lake City was the last link of the first transcontinental telegraph, completed in October 1861. Brigham Young was among the first to send a message, along with Abraham Lincoln and other officials. Because of the American Civil War, federal troops were pulled out of Utah Territory in 1861. This was a boon to the local economy as the Army sold everything in camp for pennies on the dollar before marching back east to join the war. The territory was then left in LDS hands until Patrick E. Connor arrived with a regiment of California volunteers in 1862. Connor established Fort Douglas just 3 miles 8 km east of Salt Lake City and encouraged his people to discover mineral deposits to bring more non-Mormons into the territory. Minerals were discovered in Toole County and miners began to flock to the territory. Beginning in 1865, Utah's Black Hawk War developed into the deadliest conflict in the territory's history. Chief Ontonga Black Hawk died in 1870, but fights continued to break out until additional federal troops were sent in to suppress the Ghost Dance of 1872. The war is unique among Indian wars because it was a three-way conflict, with mounted Timpanogos Utes led by Ontonga Black Hawk fighting federal and LDS authorities. On May 10, 1869, the first transcontinental railroad was completed at Promontory Summit, north of the Great Salt Lake, 39. The railroad brought increasing numbers of people into the territory and several influential business people made fortunes there. During the 1870s and 1882 laws were passed to punish polygamists due, in part, to stories from Utah. Notably, Ann Eliza Young, 10th wife to divorce Brigham Young, women's advocate, national lecturer, and author of Wife Number 19 or My Life of Bondage, and Fanny Stenhouse, author of Tell It All, My Life in Mormonism, testified to the happiness of the very early church members before polygamy. They independently published their books in 1875. These books and the lectures of Ann Eliza Young have been credited with the United States Congress's passage of anti-polygamy laws by newspapers throughout the United States, as recorded in the Ann Eliza Young Vindicator, a pamphlet which detailed Miss Young's travels and warm reception throughout her lecture tour. T.B.H. Stenhouse, former Utah Mormon polygamist, a Mormon missionary for 13 years, and a Salt Lake City newspaper owner, finally left Utah and wrote The Rocky Mountain Saints. His book gives a witnessed account of life in Utah, both the good and the bad. He finally left Utah and Mormonism after financial ruin occurred when Brigham Young sent Stenhouse to relocate to Ogden, Utah, according to Stenhouse, to take over his thriving pro-Mormon Salt Lake Telegraph newspaper. In addition to these testimonies, the Confessions of John D. Lee, written by John D. Lee, alleged scapegoat for the Mountain Meadow Massacre, also came out in 1877. The corroborative testimonies coming out of Utah from Mormons and former Mormons influenced Congress and the people of the United States. In the 1890 manifesto, the LDS Church banned polygamy. When Utah applied for statehood again, it was accepted. One of the conditions for granting Utah statehood was that a ban on polygamy be written into the state constitution. This was a condition required of other Western states that were admitted into the Union later. Statehood was officially granted on January 4, 1896. 20th century to present children reading in Santa Clara, Utah, in 1940. Beginning in the early 20th century, with the establishment of such national parks as Bryce Canyon National Park and Zion National Park, Utah became known for its natural beauty. Southern Utah became a popular filming spot for arid, rugged scenes featured in the popular mid-century Western film genre. From such films, most US residents recognize such natural landmarks as Delicate Arch and the Mittens of Monument Valley, 40. During the 1950s, 1,960 seconds and 1,970 seconds, with the construction of the interstate highway system, accessibility to the southern scenic areas was made easier. Since the establishment of Alta Ski Area in 1939 and the subsequent development of several ski resorts in the state's mountains, Utah skiing has become world-renowned. The dry, powdery snow of the Wasatch Range is considered some of the best skiing in the world. The state license plate once claimed the greatest snow on earth. 4140 to Salt Lake City won the bid for the 2002 Winter Olympic Games, and this served as a great boost to the economy. The ski resorts have increased in popularity, and many of the Olympic venues built along the Wasatch Front continue to be used for sporting events. Preparation for the Olympics spurred the development of the light rail system in the Salt Lake Valley, known as TRAX, and the reconstruction of the freeway system around the city. In 1957, Utah created the Utah State Parks Commission with 4 parks. Today, Utah State Parks manages 43 parks and several undeveloped areas totaling over 95,000 acres 380 km2 of land and more than 1 million acres 400 km2 of water. Utah state parks are scattered throughout Utah, from Bear Lake State Park at the Utah or Idaho border to edge of the Cedars State Park Museum deep in the Four Corners region and everywhere in between. Utah State Parks is also home to the state's Off-Highway Vehicle Office, State Boating Office, and the Trails Program. 43 flag of the Utah Territory. During the late 20th century, the state grew quickly. In the 1970s, growth was phenomenal in the suburbs of the Wasatch Front. Sandy was one of the fastest-growing cities in the country at that time. Today, many areas of Utah continue to see boom-time growth. Northern Davis, southern and western Salt Lake, Summit, eastern Tooele, Utah, Wasatch, and Washington counties are all growing very quickly. Management of transportation and urbanization are major issues in politics, as development consumes agricultural land and wilderness areas, and transportation is a major reason for poor air quality in Utah. On March 18, 2020, Utah suffered a 5.7 magnitude earthquake originating 3.7 miles 60 km northeast of Magna, near Salt Lake City, 44. Geography and Geology. Main articles: Geography of Utah and Geology of Utah. See also List of canyons and gorges in Utah, List of Utah counties, and List of earthquakes in Utah County boundary. Utah is known for its natural diversity and is home to features ranging from arid deserts with dunes to thriving pine forests in mountain valleys. It is a rugged and geographically diverse state at the convergence of 3 distinct geological regions: the Rocky Mountains, the Great Basin, and the Colorado Plateau. Utah covers an area of 84,899 sq mi 219,890 km2. It is one of the Four Corners states and is bordered by Idaho in the north, Wyoming in the north and east, Colorado in the east, at a single point by New Mexico to the southeast, by Arizona in the south, and by Nevada in the west. Only 3 U.S. states, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming, have exclusively latitude and longitude lines as boundaries. One of Utah's defining characteristics is the variety of its terrain. Running down the middle of the state's northern third is the Wasatch Range, which rises to heights of almost 12,000 feet 3,700 m above sea level. Utah is home to world-renowned ski resorts made popular by light, fluffy snow and winter storms that regularly dump up to 3 feet of it overnight. In the state's northeastern section, running east to west, are the Uinta Mountains, which rise to heights of over 13,000 feet 4,000 m. The highest point in the state, Kings Peak, at 13,528 feet 4,123 m, 45 lies within the Uinta Mountains. At the western base of the Wasatch Range is the Wasatch Front, a series of valleys and basins that are home to the most populous parts of the state. It stretches approximately from Brigham City at the north end to Nephi at the south end. Approximately 75% of the state's population lives in this corridor, and population growth is rapid. Western Utah is a mostly arid desert with a basin and range topography. Small mountain ranges and rugged terrain punctuate the landscape. The Bonneville Salt Flats are an exception, being comparatively flat as a result of once forming the bed of ancient Lake Bonneville. Great Salt Lake, Utah Lake, Sevier Lake, and Rush Lake are all remnants of this ancient freshwater lake, 46, which once covered most of the eastern Great Basin. West of the Great Salt Lake, stretching to the Nevada border, lies the arid Great Salt Lake Desert. One exception to this aridity is Snake Valley, which is relatively lush due to large springs and wetlands fed from groundwater derived from snowmelt in the Snake Range, Deep Creek Range, and other tall mountains to the west of Snake Valley. Great Basin National Park is just over the Nevada state line in the southern Snake Range. One of western Utah's most impressive, but least visited attractions is Notch Peak, the tallest limestone cliff in North America, located west of Delta. Much of the scenic southern and southeastern landscape, specifically the Colorado Plateau region, is sandstone, specifically Kayenta sandstone and Navajo sandstone. The Colorado River and its tributaries wind their way through the sandstone, creating some of the world's most striking and wild terrain. The area around the confluence of the Colorado and Green Rivers was the last to be mapped in the lower 48 United States. Wind and rain have also sculpted the soft sandstone over millions of years. Canyons, gullies, arches, pinnacles, buttes, bluffs, and mesas are common sights throughout south-central and southeast Utah. This terrain is the central feature of protected state and federal parks such as Arches, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, and Zion National Parks, Cedar Breaks, Grand Staircase Escalante, Hovenweep, and Natural Bridges National Monuments, Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, site of the popular tourist destination, Lake Powell, Dead Horse Point, and Goblin Valley State Parks, and Monument Valley. The Navajo Nation also extends into southeastern Utah, and the tribe is part of the coalition that manages Bears Ears National Monument. Southeastern Utah is also punctuated by the remote but lofty La Salle, Abayo, and Henry mountain ranges. Eastern Northern Quarter. Utah is a high-elevation area covered mostly by plateaus and basins, particularly the Tavapits Plateau and San Rafael Swell, which remain mostly inaccessible, and the Uinta Basin, where the majority of eastern Utah's population lives. Economies are dominated by mining, oil shale, oil, and natural gas drilling, ranching, and recreation. Much of eastern Utah is part of the Uinta and Uri Indian Reservation. The most popular destination within northeastern Utah is Dinosaur National Monument near Vernal. Southwestern Utah is the lowest and hottest spot in Utah. It is known as Utah's Dixie because early settlers were able to grow some cotton there. Beaver Dam Wash in far southwestern Utah is the lowest point in the state at 2,000 feet 610 m, 45. The northernmost portion of the Mojave Desert is also located in this area. Dixie is quickly becoming a popular recreational and retirement destination, and the population is growing rapidly. Although the Wasatch Mountains end at Mount Nebo near Nephi, a complex series of mountain ranges extends south from the southern end of the range down the spine of Utah. Just north of Dixie and east of Cedar City is the state's highest ski resort, Bryan Head. Like most of the western and southwestern states, the federal government owns much of the land in Utah. Over 70% of the land is either BLM land, Utah State Trustland, or U.S. National Forest, U.S. National Park, U.S. National Monument, National Recreation Area, or U.S. Wilderness Area, 47. Utah is the only state where every county contains some national forest. 48 Arches National Park is a national park of the United States in eastern Utah. The park is adjacent to the Colorado River, 4 miles 6 km north of Moab, Utah. The park contains more than 2,000 natural sandstone arches, including the well-known Delicate Arch, which constitute the highest density of natural arches in the world. It also contains a variety of other unique geological resources and formations. 3-4. The national park lies above an underground evaporite layer or salt bed, which is the main cause of the formation of the arches, spires, balanced rocks, sandstone fins, and eroded monoliths in the area. The park consists of 310.31 square kilometers, 76.680 acres, 119.81 sq mi, 31,031 ha of high desert located on the Colorado Plateau. 5. The highest elevation in the park is 5,653 feet 1.73 m at Elephant Butte, and the lowest elevation is 4,085 feet 1.245 m at the Visitor Center. The park receives an average of less than 10 into 5 ohm of rain annually. Administered by the National Park Service, the area was originally designated a national monument on April 12, 1929, before being redesignated a national park on November 12, 1971. 6. The park received more than 1.8 million visitors in 2021. 2. From April 1st through October 31st, a timed entry reservation is required to visit the park between the hours of a.m. and 4 p.m. 7. The Deer Creek Dam and Reservoir hydroelectric facilities are on the Provo River in western Wasatch County, Utah, United States, 1-2 about 16 miles 26 km northeast of Provo. The dam is a zoned earthfill structure 235 feet 72 m high with a crest length of 1,304 feet 397 m. The dam contains 2,810,000 cubic yards 2,150,000 m of material and forms a reservoir of 152,570 acre-foot 188,190,000 m3 capacity. Construction began in May 1938 and was completed in 1941. The reservoir supplies water for agricultural, municipal, and industrial use. Recreational activities on and around the reservoir include boating, fishing, camping, swimming, and water skiing. 3. The Deer Creek Dam is the key structure of the Provo River project managed by the U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation. Deer Creek Reservoir is the main feature of Deer Creek State Park. Deer Creek is home to several fish species, including largemouth and smallmouth bass, rainbow trout, brown trout, yellow perch, walleye, and common carp. American Fork Canyon is a canyon in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah, United States. The canyon is famous for the Timpanogos Cave National Monument, which resides on its south side. It is named after the American Fork River, which runs through the bottom of the canyon. The area is accessed by State Route 92 through what is officially called the Alpine Loop Scenic Byway. 1. Visitors entering American Fork Canyon from the west can follow Senior 92 up the canyon to the summit of the Alpine Loop, down the east side of Mount Timpanogos past Sundance Ski Resort and then out into Provo Canyon to the south. Spurs off Senior 92 take visitors to Tibble Fork Reservoir and Cascade Springs. A paved road continues east from Cascade Springs to Midway. This area is home to many hiking, biking, and equestrian trails with several established campgrounds. Tibble Fork Reservoir and Silver Lake Flats Reservoir are popular camping and fishing spots in the summer, as well as offering excellent snowmobiling, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and backcountry skiing during the winter months. Utah features a dry, semi-arid to desert climate. 49, although its many mountains feature a large variety of climates, with the highest points in the Uinta Mountains being above the timberline. The dry weather is a result of the state's location in the rain shadow of the Sierra Nevada in California. The eastern half of the state lies in the rain shadow of the Wasatch Mountains. The primary source of precipitation for the state is the Pacific Ocean, with the state usually lying in the path of large Pacific storms from October to May. In summer, the state, especially southern and eastern Utah, lies in the path of monsoon moisture from the Gulf of California. Most of the lowland areas receive less than 12 inches 305 mm of precipitation annually, although the I-15 corridor, including the densely populated Wasatch Front, receives approximately 15 inches 381. The Great Salt Lake Desert is the driest area of the state, with less than 5 inches 1 to 7. Snowfall is common in all but the far southern valleys. Although St. George receives only about 3 inches 76 per year, Salt Lake City sees about 60 inches 1.5 to form, enhanced by the lake effect snow from the Great Salt Lake, which increases snowfall totals to the south, southeast, and east of the lake. Some areas of the Wasatch Range in the path of the lake effect receive up to 500 inches 1.270 cm per year. This microclimate of enhanced snowfall from the Great Salt Lake spans the entire proximity of the lake. The Cottonwood Canyons adjacent to Salt Lake City are located in the right position to receive more precipitation from the lake. 50. The consistently deep powder snow led Utah's ski industry to adopt the slogan, "The greatest snow on earth," in the 1980s. In the winter, temperature inversions are a common phenomenon across Utah's low basins and valleys, leading to thick haze and fog that can last for weeks at a time, especially in the Uinta Basin. Although at other times of year, its air quality is good, winter inversions give Salt Lake City some of the worst wintertime pollution in the country. Previous studies have indicated a widespread decline in snowpack over Utah accompanied by a decline in the snow-snow precipitation ratio, while anecdotal evidence claims have been put forward that measured changes in Utah's snowpack are spurious and do not reflect actual change. A 2012 study 51 found that the proportion of winter January-March precipitation falling as snow has decreased by 9% during the last half-century, a combined result of a significant increase in rainfall and a minor decrease in snowfall. Meanwhile, observed snow depth across Utah has decreased and is accompanied by consistent decreases in snow cover and surface albedo. Weather systems with the potential to produce precipitation in Utah have decreased in number, with those producing snowfall decreasing at a considerably greater rate. 52 Snow in Rose Park, Salt Lake City. Utah's temperatures are extreme, with cold temperatures in winter due to its elevation, and very hot summers statewide, except mountain areas and high mountain valleys. Utah is usually protected from major blasts of cold air by mountains lying north and east of the state, although major Arctic blasts can occasionally reach the state. Average January high temperatures range from around 30 F1C in some northern valleys to almost 55 F13C in St. George. Temperatures dropping below 0 F18C should be expected on occasion in most areas of the state most years, although some areas see it often. For example, the town of Randolph averages about 50 days per year with temperatures that low. In July, average highs range from about 85 to 100 F29 to 38C. However, the low humidity and high elevation typically lead to large temperature variations, leading to cool nights on most summer days. The record high temperature in Utah was 118 F48C, recorded south of St. George on July 4, 2007, 53, and the record low was -69 F56C, recorded at Peter Sinks in the Bear River Mountains of northern Utah on February 1, 198. However, the record low for an inhabited location is -49 F45C at Woodruff on December 12, 1932. 55 Utah, like most of the western United States, has few days of thunderstorms. On average, there are fewer than 40 days of thunderstorm activity during the year, although these storms can be briefly intense when they do occur. They are most likely to occur during monsoon season from about mid-July through mid-September, especially in southern and eastern Utah. Dry lightning strikes and the generally dry weather often spark wildfires in summer, while intense thunderstorms can lead to flash flooding, especially in the rugged terrain of southern Utah. Although spring is the wettest season in northern Utah, late summer is the wettest period for much of the south and east of the state. Tornadoes are uncommon in Utah, with an average of 2 striking the state yearly, rarely higher than EF1 intensity. 56. One exception of note, however, was the unprecedented Salt Lake City tornado that moved directly across downtown Salt Lake City on August 11, 1999. The F2 tornado killed 1 person, injured 60 others, and caused approximately $170 million in damage. 57. It was the second strongest tornado in the state behind an F3 on August 11, 1993, in the Uinta Mountains. 57. 58. The only other reported tornado fatality in Utah's history was a 7-year-old girl who was killed while camping in Summit County on July 6, 1884. 57. Wild Lafitte Rocky Mountain elk is the Utah state mammal. The California gull is the Utah state bird. See also, List of fauna of Utah. Utah is home to more than 600 vertebrate animal species, 59, as well as numerous invertebrates and insects. Mammals. Main article, List of mammals of Utah. Mammals are found in every area of Utah. Non-predatory larger mammals include the plains bison, 61, 62 elk, 63 moose, 64 mountain goat, 64 mule, deer, 64 pronghorn, 65 and multiple types of bighorn sheep, 66, 67, 68 non-predatory small mammals include muskrat, 64 and nutria, 69 large and small predatory mammals include the black bear, 64 cougar, 64 Canada lynx, 70 bobcat, 60 for fox gray, red, and kit, 64 coyote, 64 badger, 64 black-footed ferret, 71 mink, 64 stoat, 64 long-tailed weasel, 64 raccoon, 64 and otter, 72. The brown bear was formerly found within Utah, but has since been extirpated. 73. There are no confirmed mating pairs of gray wolves in Utah, although there have been sightings in northeastern Utah along the Wyoming border. 74. 75. Birds main article, list of birds of Utah as of January 2020. There were 466 species included in the official list managed by the Utah Bird Records Committee (UBRC). 77 of these, 119 are classed as accidental, 29 are classed as occasional, 57 are classed as rare, and 10 have been introduced to Utah or North America. 11 of the accidental species are also classed as provisional. Due to the miracle of the gulls incident in 1848, the most well-known bird in Utah is the California gull, which is also the Utah state bird. 78. A monument in Salt Lake City commemorates the miracle of the gulls. 79. Other gulls common to Utah include Bonaparte's gull, 80. The ring-billed gull, and Franklin's gull. Other birds commonly found include the American robin, 81, the common starling, Finch's black rosy, 80, Cassins, 83, and goldfinch, 84. The black-billed magpie, 85, mourning doves, 86, sparrow's house, tree, 87, black-chinned, 88, black-throated, 89, brewers, 90, and chipping, 91. Clark's grebe, 92, the ferruginous hawk, geese snow, cackling, 93 in Canada, 94 eagles golden and bald, 95. California quail, 96 mountain bluebird and hummingbirds calliope, 97 black-chinned, 98 and broad-tailed, 99 invertebrates. Black widow spider main articles, list of arachnids of Utah, list of butterflies and moths of Utah, and list of mollusks of Utah. Utah is host to a wide variety of arachnids, insects, mollusks, and other invertebrates. Arachnids include the Arizona bark scorpion, 100. Western black widow spiders, 101 crab spiders, 102 hobo spiders Tegenaria agrestes, 103 cellar spiders, American grass spiders, woodlouse spiders, 101. Several spiders found in Utah are often mistaken for the brown recluse spider, including the desert recluse spider found only in Washington County, the cellar spider, and crevice-weaving spiders. 104, 105, 106. The brown recluse spider has not been officially confirmed in Utah as of summer 2020. 107. One of the rarest insects in Utah is the coral pink sand dunes tiger beetle, found only in Coral Pink Sand Dunes State Park, near Kanab. 108. It was proposed in 2012 to be listed as a threatened species, 109, but the proposal was not accepted. 110. Other insects include grasshoppers, 111. Green stink bugs, 112. The army cutworm, 113. The monarch butterfly, 114. And Mormon fritillary butterfly, 114. The white-lined sphinx moth is common to most of the United States, but there have been reported outbreaks of large groups of their larvae damaging tomato, grape, and garden crops in Utah. 1154 or 5 species of firefly are also found across the state. 116. In February 2009, Africanized honeybees were found in southern Utah. 117. 118. The bees had spread into 8 counties in Utah, as far north as Grand and Emery counties by May 2017. 119. Vegetation main article, list of flora of Utah. Pando, considered one of the heaviest and oldest organisms on Earth. 1201-1. Joshua trees, yuccas, and chala cactus occupy the far southwest corner of the state in the Mojave Desert. Several thousand plants are native to Utah. 122. Including a variety of trees, shrubs, cacti, herbaceous plants, and grasses. As of 2018, there are 3,930 species of plants in Utah, with 3,128 of those being indigenous and 792 being introduced through various means. 1 to 3 common trees include pines or pions, white fir, Colorado, single leaf, Great Basin bristlecone, ponderosa, Engelmann spruce, Rocky Mountain white, and Acer grandidendatum. Quaking aspen, bigtooth maple, Utah juniper, speckled alder, red birch, Gamble oak, desert willow, blue spruce, and Joshua trees. Utah has a number of named trees, including the Jardine juniper, Pondo, 1201-1, and the 1,000-mile tree. Shrubs include a number of different Ephedrus pitomorial, Navajo, Arizona, Nevada, Torrey's joint fear, and green Mormon tea, sagebrushes little, bigelow, silver, Michaud's wormwood, black, pygmy, bud, and Great Basin, blue elderberry, Utah serviceberry, chokecherry, and skunk bush sumac. Western poison oak, poison sumac, and western poison ivy are all found in Utah. 1 to 4. There are many varieties of cacti in Utah's varied deserts, especially in the southern and western parts of the state. Some of these include desert prickly pear, California barrel cactus, fishhook cactus, chala beavertail prickly pear, and Uinta basin hookless cactus. Despite the desert climate, many different grasses are found in Utah, including Mormon needlegrass, bluebunch wheatgrass, western alkali grass, squirrel-tail, desert saltgrass, and cheatgrass. Several invasive species of plants are considered noxious weeds by the state, including Bermuda grass, field bindweed, henbane, jointed goatgrass, Canada thistle, balkan and common toadflax, giant cane, couchgrass, St. John's wort, hemlock, swordgrass, Russian olive, myrtle spurge, Japanese knotweed, salt cedar, and goat's head. 1 to 5. Demographics Min article, Demographics of Utah. Welcome to Utah. Signet the 2020 U.S. Census. Utah had a population of 3,271,616. The U.S. Census Bureau estimated that the population of Utah was 3,205,958 on July 1, 2019, a 16.0% increase since the 2010 U.S. Census. 1 to 6. The center of population of Utah is located in Utah County in the city of Leahy. 1 to 7. Much of the population lives in cities and towns along the Wasatch Front, a metropolitan region that runs north-south with the Wasatch Mountains rising on the eastern side. Growth outside the Wasatch Front is also increasing. The St. George metropolitan area is currently the second fastest growing in the country after the Las Vegas metropolitan area, while the Heber micropolitan area is also the second fastest growing in the country behind Palm Coast, Florida. 1 to 8. Utah contains 5 metropolitan areas: Logan, Ogden, Clearfield, Salt Lake City, Provo-Orem, and St. George, and 6 micropolitan areas: Brigham City, Heber, Vernal, Price, Richfield, and Cedar City. According to HUD's 2022 Annual Homeless Assessment Report, there were an estimated 3,557 homeless people in Utah. 1 to 9. 130. The majority of Utah's immigrants come from Mexico. Health and Fertility Min article, Healthcare in Utah ranks among the highest in total fertility rate, 47th in teenage pregnancy, lowest in percentage of births out of wedlock, lowest in number of abortions per capita, and lowest in percentage of teen pregnancies terminated in abortion. However, statistics relating to pregnancies and abortions may also be artificially low from teenagers going out of state for abortions because of parental notification requirements. 13313 for Utah has the lowest child poverty rate in the country, despite its young demographic. According to the Gallup HealthWiz Global Well-Being Index as of 2012, Utahns ranked 4th in overall well-being in the United States. 136. A 2002 National Prescription Drug Study determined that antidepressant drugs were prescribed in Utah more often than in any other state, at a rate nearly twice the national average. 137. The data shows that depression rates in Utah are no higher than the national average. 138. In 2022, Utah had the lowest percent of births to unmarried women of any U.S. state, at 20.3%. 139. In 2011, 28.6% of Utah's population younger than the age of 1 were ethnic minorities, meaning they had at least one parent who was of a race other than non-Hispanic white. Religion. Further information, Demographics of Utah. Religiosity. Also, The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Utah. Religion in Utah as of 2014-147. Religion percentum Latter-day Saints 55, unaffiliated 22, Protestant 13, Catholic 5, other faiths 2, Buddhist 1, Muslim 1. The LDS Salt Lake Temple, the primary attraction in the city's Temple Square. First Presbyterian Church in Salt Lake City. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Hindu Temple. Mormons are the largest religious group in Utah. However, the percentage of Mormons in the overall population has been decreasing. In 2017, 62.8% of Utahns were members of the LDS Church, 148-149. This declined to 61.2% in 2018-150 and to 60.7% in 2019. 151 members of the LDS Church, or 34.41% of the people of Salt Lake City. Many of the other major population centers, such as Provo, Logan, Tooele, and St. George, are each mostly LDS, as are many suburban and rural areas. The LDS Church has the largest number of congregations, numbering 4,815 wards, 152. According to results from the 2010 U.S. Census, combined with official LDS church membership statistics, church members represented 62.1% of Utah's total population. The Utah county with the lowest percentage of church members was Grand County at 26.5%, while the county with the highest percentage was Morgan County at 86.1%. In addition, the result for the most populated county, Salt Lake County, was 51.414, though the LDS Church officially maintains a policy of neutrality in regard to political parties, 153. The Church's doctrine has a strong regional influence on politics, 154. Another doctrine effect can be seen in Utah's high birth rate, 25% higher than the national average, the highest for a state in the U.S. 155. Mormons in Utah tend to have conservative views when it comes to most political issues, and the majority of voter-age Utahns are unaffiliated voters, 60, who vote overwhelmingly Republican, 156. Mitt Romney received 72.8% of the Utah votes in 2012, while John McCain polled 62.5% in the 2008 United States presidential election and 70.9% for George W. Bush in 2004. In 2010, the Association of Religion Data Archives (ARDA) reported that the three largest denominational groups in Utah are the LDS Church with 1,910,504 adherents, the Catholic Church with 160,125 adherents, and the Southern Baptist Convention with 12,593 adherents, 157. According to a Gallup poll, Utah had the third highest number of people reporting as very religious in 2015, at 55%, trailing only Mississippi and Alabama. However, it was near the national average of people reporting as non-religious, 31, and featured the smallest percentage of people reporting as moderately religious, 15, of any state, being 8 points lower than second lowest state Vermont, 158. In addition, it had the highest average weekly church attendance of any state, at 51.159. A 2023 paper challenged this perception, claiming only 42% of Utahns are Mormons. However, most statistics still show a majority of Utah residents belong to the LDS Church. Estimates from the LDS Church suggest 60.68% of Utah's population belongs to the church, whilst some sources put the number as high as 68.160. The paper replied that membership count done by the LDS Church is too high for several reasons. Economime article, Economy of Utah. See also Utah locations by per capita income and list of Utah companies. The Wasatch Front region has seen large growth and development despite the economic downturn. Shown is the City Creek Center project, a development in downtown Salt Lake City with a price tag of $1.525 billion. 1 out of every 14 flash memory chips in the world is produced in Leahy, Utah. 165. Zion National Park in southern Utah is one of 5 national parks in the state. Farms and rank is according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The gross state product of Utah in 2012 was $130.5 billion, or 0.87% of the total United States GDP of $14.991 trillion for the same year. 166. The per capita personal income was $45,700 in 2012. Major industries of Utah include mining, cattle ranching, salt production, and government services. According to the 2007 State New Economy Index, Utah has ranked the top state in the nation for economic dynamism, determined by the degree to which state economies are knowledge-based, globalized, entrepreneurial, information technology-driven, and innovation-based. In 2014, Utah was ranked number 1 in Forbes' list of best states for business. 167. A November 2010 article in Newsweek magazine highlighted Utah and particularly the Salt Lake City area's economic outlook, calling it the new economic Zion, and examined how the area has been able to bring in high-paying jobs and attract high-tech corporations to the area during a recession. 168. As of September 2014, the state's unemployment rate was 3.5. 169. In terms of small business friendliness, in 2014 Utah emerged as number 1, based on a study drawing upon data from more than 12,000 small business owners. 170. In eastern Utah, petroleum production is a major industry. 171. Near Salt Lake City, petroleum refining is done by several oil companies. In central Utah, coal production accounts for much of the mining activity. According to Internal Revenue Service tax returns, Utahns rank first among all U.S. states in the proportion of income given to charity by the wealthy. This is due to the standard 10% of all earnings that Mormons give to the LDS Church. 135. According to the Corporation for National and Community Service, Utah had an average of 884,000 volunteers between 2008 and 2010, each of whom contributed 89.2 hours per volunteer. This figure equates to $3.8 billion of service contributed, ranking Utah number 1 for volunteerism in the nation. 17 to taxation. Utah collects personal income tax. For tax year 2024, the tax is a flat 4.55% for all taxpayers. This rate has been steadily decreasing by 0.05 percent points yearly since 2008, when it was at 5.173. The state sales tax has a base rate of 6.45%, 174, with cities and counties levying additional local sales taxes that vary among the municipalities. Property taxes are assessed and collected locally. Utah does not charge intangible property taxes and does not impose an inheritance tax. Tourism is a major industry in Utah. With 5 national parks: Arches, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, and Zion, Utah has the 3rd most national parks of any state after Alaska and California. In addition, Utah features 9 national monuments: Cedar Breaks, Dinosaur, Grand Staircase Escalante, Hovenweep, Natural Bridges, Bears Ears, Rainbow Bridge, Timpanogos Cave, and Jurassic, 2 national recreation areas: Flaming Gorge and Glen Canyon, 7 national forests: Ashley, Caribou Targhee, Dixie, Fish Lake, Manti La Salle, Sawtooth, and Uninta Wasatch Cache, and numerous state parks and monuments. The Moab area in the southeastern part of the state is known for its challenging mountain biking trails, including Slick Rock. Moab also hosts the famous Moab Jeep Safari semi-annually. Utah has seen an increase in tourism since the 2002 Winter Olympics. Park City is home to the United States ski team. Utah's ski resorts are primarily located in northern Utah near Salt Lake City, Park City, Ogden, and Provo. Between 2007 and 2011, Deer Valley Park City has been ranked the top ski resort in North America in a survey organized by Ski Magazine. 175. Utah has many significant ski resorts. The 2009 Ski Magazine Reader Survey concluded that 6 of the top 10 resorts deemed most accessible, and 6 of the top 10 with the best snow conditions, were located in Utah. 176. In southern Utah, Bryan Head Ski Resort is located in the mountains near Cedar City. Former Olympic venues including Utah Olympic Park and Utah Olympic Oval are still in operation for training and competition and allow the public to participate in numerous activities including ski jumping, bobsleigh, and speed skating. Utah features many cultural attractions such as Temple Square, the Sundance Film Festival, the Red Rock Film Festival, the Dockyta Film Festival, the Utah Data Center, and the Utah Shakespeare Festival. Temple Square is ranked as the 16th most visited tourist attraction in the United States by Forbes magazine, with more than 5 million annual visitors. 177. Other attractions include Monument Valley, the Great Salt Lake, the Bonneville Salt Flats, and Lake Powell. Bryce Canyon National Park Amphitheater Winter View. Branding. State of Utah relies heavily on income from tourists and travelers visiting the state's parks and ski resorts, and thus the need to brand Utah and create an impression of the state throughout the world has led to several state slogans, the most famous of which is "The Greatest Snow on Earth," which has been in use in Utah officially since 1975, although the slogan was in unofficial use as early as 1962 and now adorns nearly 50% of the state's license plates. In 2001, Utah Governor Mike Leavitt approved a new state slogan, "Utah, where ideas connect," which lasted until March 10, 2006, when the Utah Travel Council and the Office of Governor John Huntsman announced that "Life Elevated" would be the new state slogan. 178. Mining has been a large industry in Utah since it was first settled. The Bingham Canyon Mine in Salt Lake County is one of the largest open-pit mines in the world. Beginning in the late 19th century with the state's mining boom, including the Bingham Canyon Mine, among the world's largest open-pit mines, companies attracted large numbers of immigrants with job opportunities. Since the days of the Utah Territory, mining has played a major role in Utah's economy. Historical mining towns include Mercer in Toole County, Silver Reef in Washington County, Eureka in Juab County, Park City in Summit County, and numerous coal mining camps throughout Carbon County such as Castle Gate, Spring Canyon, and Hiawatha. 179. These settlements were characteristic of the boom and bust cycle that dominated mining towns of the American West. Park City, Utah, and Alta, Utah were boom towns in the early 20th century. Rich silver mines in the mountains adjacent to the towns led to many people flocking to the towns in search of wealth. During the early part of the Cold War era, uranium was mined in eastern Utah. Today, mining activity still plays a major role in the state's economy. Minerals mined in Utah include copper, gold, silver, molybdenum, zinc, lead, and beryllium. Fossil fuels including coal, petroleum, and natural gas continue to play a large role in Utah's economy, especially in the eastern part of the state in counties such as Carbon, Emery, Grand, and Uinta. 179 Energize also, list of power stations in Utah extracts more coal and generates more electricity than it consumes. 180 The state has the potential to generate 31.6 TWh or year from 13.1 GW of wind power and 10,290 TWh or year from solar power using 4,048 GW of photovoltaic PV, including 5.6 GW of rooftop photovoltaic and 1,638 GW of concentrated solar power. 181. The Blue Castle project is working toward building the state's first nuclear power plant near Green River, Utah, originally projected to be completed in 2030-18. Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems UAMPS is a subdivision of the state of Utah, providing non-profit wholesale electricity, transmission, and other energy services to community-owned power systems in the Intermountain West geographical area. 183 Transportation Cherdwa State Route 12 through Red Canyon in Dixie National Forest. Also, list of state highways in Utah. I-15 and I-80 are the main interstate highways in the state, where they intersect and briefly merge near downtown Salt Lake City. I-15 traverses the state north to south, entering from Arizona near St. George, paralleling the Wasatch Front, and crossing into Idaho near Portage. I-80 spans northern Utah east to west, entering from Nevada at Wendover, crossing the Wasatch Mountains east of Salt Lake City, and entering Wyoming near Evanston. I-84 west enters from Idaho near Snowville from Boise and merges with I-15 from Tremonton to Ogden, then heads southeast through the Wasatch Mountains before terminating at I-80 near Echo Junction. I-70 splits from I-15 at Cove Fort in central Utah and heads east through mountains and rugged desert terrain, providing quick access to the many national parks and national monuments of southern Utah, and has been noted for its beauty. The 103 miles 166 km stretch from Salina to Green River is the country's longest stretch of interstate without services and, when completed in 1970, was the longest stretch of entirely new highway constructed in the U.S. since the Alaska Highway was completed in 1943. Rail and transit frontrunner commuter rail runs between Ogden and Provo via Salt Lake City. Trax Light Rail serves Salt Lake County. See also list of Utah Railroad SUDAS class. I-Freight railroads are the BNSF Railway and the Union Pacific Railway. Interstate passenger rail is provided by Amtrak's daily California Zephyr train, which runs between Chicago Union Station and Emeryville, California, with stops in Utah at Green River, Helper, Provo, and the Salt Lake City Intermodal Hub. The state was previously served by Amtrak's Pioneer and Desert Wind trains. Heritage railroads include the Heber Valley Railroad and the Wild Kingdom train. The Utah Transit Authority Utah operates public transport services throughout the Wasatch Front region. Trax, the Utah's light rail system, consists of 3 lines. The Blue Line, formerly Salt Lake or Sandy Line, begins in the suburb of Draper and ends in downtown Salt Lake City. The Red Line, Mid-Jordan University Line, begins in the Daybreak community of South Jordan, a southwestern valley suburb, and ends at the University of Utah. The Green Line begins in West Valley City, passes through downtown Salt Lake City, and ends at Salt Lake City International Airport. The Utah also operates Frontrunner, a commuter rail line running between Ogden and Provo via Salt Lake City. The Utah's bus system stretches from the Salt Lake Valley west to Grantsville and east to Park City. Beyond Utah, the cities of Cedar City, Logan, Park City, and St. George are served by local bus operators. In the winter, the Utah and several private bus companies operate shuttle routes to Utah's ski resorts. Air Salt Lake International Airport is the largest airport in Utah. See also, list of airports in Utah. Salt Lake City International Airport is the only international airport in the state and serves as a hub for Delta Airlines. The airport has consistently ranked first in on-time departures and had the fewest cancellations among U.S. airports, 184. The airport has non-stop service to more than 100 destinations throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico, as well as to Amsterdam, London, and Paris. Canyonlands Field near Moab, Cedar City Regional Airport, Ogden-Hinckley Airport, Provo Municipal Airport, St. George Regional Airport, and Vernal Regional Airport all provide limited commercial air service. A new regional airport at St. George opened on January 12, 2011. SkyWest Airlines is also headquartered in St. George and maintains a hub in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City International Airport IATA, SLC, ICAO, Kessel C, FAA LID, SLC is a joint civil-military international airport located about 4 miles 4 km, 3.5 mi west of downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, United States. The airport, along with the much smaller Provo Airport PU and Ogden-Hinckley Airport OGD, are the closest commercial airports for more than 3 million people to and is within a 30-minute drive of nearly 1.3 million jobs. 3. The airport serves as a hub for Delta Airlines and is a major gateway to the Intermountain West and West Coast. The airport sees 343 scheduled nonstop airline departures per day to 93 cities in North America and Europe. 4. It is by far the busiest airport in Utah. Salt Lake City International Airport continues to rank high for on-time departures or arrivals and the fewest flight cancellations among major US airports. The airport ranked first for on-time departures and arrivals and first for the percentage of cancellations as of April 2017. 5. The airport is owned by the City of Salt Lake City and is administered by the Municipal Department of Airports. 6. In 2024, SLC Intel Airport set an all-time record with 28,364,610 passengers served, a 5.2% increase from 2023. 7. The Federal Aviation Administration reported 2,870 enplanements passenger boardings at the airport in calendar year 2008 to 3,982 in 2009, 2,701 in 2010, 39,181 in 2011, 7,955 in 2012, 7,048 in 2013, and 9,843 unofficial. The National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems for 2011 to 2015 categorized it as a non-primary commercial service airport between 2,500 and 10,000 enplanements per year. SkyWest Airlines is an American regional airline headquartered in St. George, Utah. SkyWest operates and maintains aircraft used on flights that are scheduled, marketed, and sold by 4 partner mainline airlines. The company is contracted by Alaska Airlines as Alaska SkyWest, American Airlines as American Eagle, Delta Airlines as Delta Connection, and United Airlines as United Express. In all, it is the largest regional airline in North America when measured by fleet size, number of passengers carried, and number of destinations served. SkyWest operates from 258 cities in the United States, Canada, and Mexico with an extensive network of routes largely set up to connect passengers between smaller airports and the large hubs of its partner airlines. In total, SkyWest carried 38.6 million passengers in 2023. In 2024, the company operated an average of 2,190 flights per day, of which approximately 841 were United Express flights, 732 were Delta Connection flights, 317 were American Eagle flights, and 220 were Alaska Airlines flights. Delta Airlines, Inc. is a major airline in the United States headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, operating 9 hubs, with Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport being its largest in terms of total passengers and number of departures. With its regional subsidiaries and contractors operating under the brand name Delta Connection, Delta has over 5,400 flights daily and serve 325 destinations in 52 countries on 6 continents. Delta is a founding member of the SkyTeam Airline Alliance, which helps to extend its global network. 7. It is the oldest operating U.S. airline and the 7th oldest operating worldwide. 8. Delta ranks first in revenue and brand value among the world's largest airlines, and second by number of passengers carried, passenger miles flown, and fleet size. 9. Listed 70th on the Fortune 500 list. 10. Delta has topped the Wall Street Journal's annual rankings of airlines in 2022. 2023, and 2024 and earned first place in the 2024 Reader's Choice Awards for Best Airlines in the U.S. by Condé Nast Traveler, 1112. Law and Government Main article, Government of Utah. Further information, List of Utah governors, List of Utah state legislatures, Utah State Senate, and Utah State House of Representatives. Garn top right, former Senator of Utah 197-1993, and astronaut on Space Shuttle Flight Streets 51. Utah government is divided into three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The governor is the chief executive of the state and elected for a 4-year term. A lieutenant governor is concurrently elected on a joint ticket with the governor. 185-186. The current governor of Utah is Spencer Cox, 187, who was sworn in on January 4, 2021. In addition to the governor and lieutenant governor, Utah has 3 other independently elected executive officers: a state auditor, a state treasurer, and an attorney general. 188-189-190. As of 2024, J. Bracken Lee 194-91957 was the most recent of 3 governors of Utah who was not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints LDS Church, the other 2 being Simon Bamberger 1917-1921 and George Dern 1925-1933. The Utah State Legislature consists of a Senate and a House of Representatives. State senators serve 4-year terms and representatives 2-year terms. The Utah Legislature meets each year in January for an annual 45-day session. The Utah Supreme Court is the court of last resort in Utah. It consists of 5 justices who are appointed by the governor and then subject to retention election. The Utah Court of Appeals handles cases from the trial courts. 191. Trial-level courts are the district courts and justice courts. All justices and judges, like those on the Utah Supreme Court, are subject to retention election after appointment. In a 2020 study, Utah was ranked as the 3rd easiest state for citizens to vote in. 192. Women's rights. Further information, women's suffrage in Utah granted full voting rights to women in 1870, 26 years before becoming a state. Among all U.S. states, only Wyoming granted suffrage to women earlier. 194. However, in 1887, the initial Edmunds-Tucker Act was passed by Congress to curtail Mormon influence in the territorial government. One of the provisions of the act was the repeal of women's suffrage. Full suffrage was not returned until Utah was admitted to the Union in 1896. Utah is one of the 15 states that have not ratified the U.S. Equal Rights Amendment. 195. Abortion in Utah is legal prior to the 18th week of pregnancy. 196. Free-range parenting. In March 2018, Utah passed the United States' first free-range parenting bill. The bill was signed into law by Republican Governor Gary Herbert and states that parents who allow their children to engage in certain activities without supervision are not considered neglectful. 197-198. Constitution. Main article, Constitution of Utah. The Constitution of Utah was enacted on May 8, 1895. 199. Notably, the Constitution outlawed polygamy as requested by Congress when Utah had applied for statehood and re-established the territorial practice of women's suffrage. Utah's constitution has been amended many times since its inception. 200. Capital punishment. Article, Capital punishment in Utah. Under Utah law, aggravated murder is the only crime subject to the penalty of death. 201. Utah was the first state to resume executions after the 1972-1976 national moratorium on capital punishment ended with Gregg v. Georgia, when Gary Gilmore was executed by firing squad in 1977. 202. Utah is one of only 2 states to have ever carried out executions by firing squad, and the only one to do so after the moratorium ended. 203. Alcohol, tobacco, and gambling law. See also, List of breweries, wineries, and distilleries in Utah and List of alcohol laws of the United States. Utah's laws regarding alcohol, tobacco, and gambling are strict. Utah is an alcoholic beverage control state. The Utah Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control regulates the sale of alcohol. Wine and spirituous liquors may be purchased only at state liquor stores, and local laws may prohibit the sale of beer and other alcoholic beverages on Sundays. The state bans the sale of fruity alcoholic drinks at grocery stores and convenience stores. The law states that such drinks must now have new state-approved labels on the front of the products that contain capitalized letters in bold type telling consumers the drinks contain alcohol and at what percentage. Utah is the only state that imposes a maximum blood alcohol content back of 0.05% for drivers, as opposed to the 0.08% limit in other states. 204. The Utah Indoor Clean Air Act is a statewide smoking ban that prohibits it in many public places. 205. Utah and Hawaii are the only 2 states in the United States to outlaw all forms of gambling. Same-sex marriage. Main article. Same-sex marriage in Utah. Same-sex marriage became legal in Utah on December 20, 2013, when U.S. District Court Judge Robert J. Shelby issued a ruling in Kitchen v. Herbert 206-207 as of close of business December 26. More than 1,225 marriage licenses were issued, with at least 74%, or 905 licenses, issued to gay and lesbian couples. 208. The Utah Attorney General's office was granted a stay of the ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court on January 6, 2014, while the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals considered the case. 209. On October 6, 2014, the U.S. Supreme Court declined a writ of certiorari, and the 10th Circuit Court issued their mandate later that day, lifting their stay. Same-sex marriages commenced again in Utah that day. 2-1 Olgeet writes. This section is an excerpt from LGBTQ rights in Utah. Edit. The rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ people in the U.S. state of Utah have significantly evolved in the 21st century. Protective laws have become increasingly enacted since 2014, despite the state's reputation as socially conservative and highly religious. Utah's anti-sodomy law was invalidated in 2003 by Lawrence v. Texas and fully repealed by the state legislature in 2019. Same-sex marriage has been legal since the state's ban was ruled unconstitutional by federal courts in 2014. In addition, statewide anti-discrimination laws now cover sexual orientation and gender identity in employment and housing, and the use of conversion therapy on minors is prohibited. In spite of this, there are still a few differences between the treatment of LGBTQ people and the rest of the population, and the rights of transgender youth are restricted. 211-1-2 opinion polling has shown an increase in support for LGBT rights in the state. A 2017 Public Religion Research Institute poll showed that 44% of Utah residents supported same-sex marriage, a significant increase from the early 2000s. A 2019 survey by the same pollster showed that 74% of Utahns supported anti-discrimination legislation protecting LGBTQ people. 213 Salt Lake City, the largest city in the state, has one of the largest LGBTQ populations in the country. 214. Politics. The Scott Matheson Courthouse is the seat of the Utah Supreme Court. In the late 19th century, the federal government took issue with polygamy in the LDS Church. The LDS Church discontinued plural marriage in 1890, and in 1896 Utah gained admission to the Union. Many new people settled in the area soon after the Mormon pioneers. Relations have often been strained between the LDS population and the non-LDS population. 216. These tensions have played a large part in Utah's history. Liberal Party vs. People's Party. Utah votes predominantly Republican. Self-identified Latter-day Saints are more likely to vote for the Republican ticket than non-Mormons. Utah is one of the most Republican states in the nation. 217-18 Utah was the single most Republican-leaning state in the country in every presidential election from 1976 to 2004, measured by the percentage point margin between the Republican and Democratic candidates. In 2008, Utah was only the third most Republican state after Wyoming and Oklahoma, but in 2012, with Mormon Mitt Romney atop the Republican ticket, Utah returned to its position as the most Republican state. However, the 2016 presidential election results saw Republican Donald Trump carry the state, marking the 13th consecutive win by the Republican presidential candidate with only a plurality, the first time this happened since 1992. Both of Utah's U.S. Senators, John Curtis and Mike Lee, are Republican, as are all four of its U.S. representatives. Ben McAdams is the most recent Democrat to represent Utah in Congress, representing the 4th Congressional District based in Salt Lake City, from 2019 to 2021. He lost re-election to Burgess Owens, a Republican, in 2020. After John Huntsman Jr. resigned to serve as U.S. ambassador to China in 2009, Gary Herbert was sworn in as governor on August 11, 2009. Herbert was elected to serve out the remainder of the term in a special election in 2010, defeating Democratic nominee Salt Lake County Mayor Peter Corroon with 64% of the vote. He won election to a full 4-year term in 2012, defeating the Democrat Peter Cook with 68% of the vote. The LDS Church maintains an official policy of neutrality about political parties and candidates. 153 In the 1970s, then Apostle Ezra Taft Benson was quoted by the Associated Press that it would be difficult for a faithful Latter-day Saint to be a liberal Democrat. 219. Although the LDS Church has officially repudiated such statements on many occasions, Democratic candidates including LDS Democrats believe Republicans capitalize on the perception that the Republican Party is doctrinally superior. 220 political scientist and pollster Dan Jones explains this disparity by noting that the National Democratic Party is associated with liberal positions on gay marriage and abortion, both of which the LDS Church is against. 2-1. The Republican Party in heavily Mormon Utah County presents itself as the superior choice for Latter-day Saints. Even though Utah Democratic candidates are predominantly LDS, socially conservative, and pro-life, no Democrat has won in Utah County since 1994. To David Magleby, Dean of Social and Behavioral Sciences at Brigham Young University, a lifelong Democrat and a political analyst, asserts that the Republican Party has more conservative positions than the LDS Church. Magleby argues that the locally conservative Democrats are in better accord with LDS doctrine. 2-3. For example, the Republican Party of Utah opposes almost all abortions, while Utah Democrats take a more liberal approach, although more conservative than their national counterparts. On Second Amendment issues, the state GOP has been at odds with the LDS Church's position opposing concealed firearms in places of worship and public spaces. In 1998, the church expressed concern that Utahns perceived the Republican Party as an LDS institution and authorized lifelong Democrat and 70 Marlin Jensen to promote LDS bipartisanship. 219 Utah is much more conservative than the United States as a whole, primarily on social issues. Compared to other Republican-dominated states in the Mountain West, such as Idaho and Wyoming, Utah politics have a more moralistic and less libertarian character. According to David Magleby, 2-4 about 80% of Utah's legislature are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 2-5 while members account for 61% of the population. 2-6 since becoming a state in 1896. Utah has had only 2 non-Mormon governors. 2-7 in 2006, the legislature passed legislation aimed at banning joint custody for a non-biological parent of a child. The custody measure passed the legislature and was vetoed by the governor, a reciprocal benefits supporter. Carbon County's Democrats are generally made up of members of the large Greek, Italian, and Southeastern European communities, whose ancestors migrated in the early 20th century to work in the extensive mining industry. The views common amongst this group are heavily influenced by labor politics, particularly of the New Deal era. 2-8. The state's most Republican areas tend to be Utah County, which is the home to Brigham Young University BYU in the city of Provo, and nearly all the rural counties. 2-9-30 these areas generally hold socially conservative views in line with that of the national religious right. The most Democratic areas of the state lie currently in and around Salt Lake City proper. The state has not voted for a Democrat for president since 1964. Historically, Republican presidential nominees score one of their best margins of victory here. Utah was the Republicans' best state in the 1976, 2311980, 2321984, 2331988, 2341996, 2352000, 2362000 for 237 and 2012 elections. In 1992, Utah was the only state in the nation where Democratic candidate Bill Clinton finished behind both Republican candidate George W. Bush and Independent candidate Ross Perot. 3-8. In 2004, Republican George W. Bush won every county in the state, and Utah gave him his largest margin of victory of any state. He won the state's 5 electoral votes by a margin of 46 percentage points with 71.5% of the vote. In the 1996 presidential elections, the Republican candidate received a smaller 54% of the vote, while the Democrat earned 34.239 in 2020. The Associated Press wrote a piece profiling Utah's political culture during that year's presidential election. The article noted a more bipartisan and cooperative environment, along with conservative support of liberal causes such as LGBT rights and marijuana use, despite the Republican dominance in the state and the political polarization seen in other parts of the U.S. at the time. 240. Major cities and towns. Main article, list of municipalities in Utah. See also, Utah locations by per capita income. Utah population density map. Utah's population is concentrated in 2 areas, the Wasatch Front in the north-central part of the state, with over 2.6 million residents, and Washington County in southwestern Utah, locally known as Dixie, with more than 175,000 residents in the metropolitan area. According to the 2010 census, Utah was the second fastest growing state at 23.8% in the United States between 2000 and 2010, behind Nevada. St. George in the southwest is the second fastest growing metropolitan area in the United States, trailing Greeley, Colorado. The three fastest growing counties from 2000 to 2010 were Wasatch County 54.7, Washington County 52.9, and Toole County 42.9. However, Utah County added the most people, 148,028. Between 2000 and 2010, Saratoga Springs 1,673, Harriman 1,330, Eagle Mountain 893, Cedar Hills 217, South Willard 168, Nibley 166, Syracuse 159, West Haven 158, Leahy 149, Washington 129, and Stansbury Park 116, all at least doubled in population. West Jordan 35,376, Leahy 28,379, St. George 23,234, South Jordan 20,981, West Valley City 20,584, and Harriman 20,262 all added at least 20,000 people, 2 for 1. Sportsy also, list of professional sports teams in Utah. The Olympic cauldron is lit by the Miracle on Ice 1980 U.S. men's ice hockey team at the opening ceremony of the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. Utah Jazz playing against the Houston Rockets. Robbie Russell playing for Real Salt Lake is the second least populous U.S. state to have a major professional sports league franchise after the Vegas Golden Knights joined the National Hockey League in 2017. The Utah Jazz of the National Basketball Association play at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City, 2 for 3. The team moved to the city from New Orleans in 1979 and has been one of the most consistently successful teams in the league, although they have yet to win a championship. The Salt Lake City Stars are the G League affiliate of the Jazz. The team moved from Idaho to Utah in 2016. Salt Lake City was previously host to the Utah Stars, who competed in the ABA from 1970 to 1976 and won one championship, and to the Utah Stars of the WNBA from 1997 to 2003. In 2024, the Utah Hockey Club was established, beginning play during the 2024-25 National Hockey League season. The team was established using the existing roster, staff, and draft picks of the Arizona Coyotes, which were purchased by businessman and Jazz owner Ryan Smith. The Utah Hockey Club plays their home games at the Delta Center, sharing the facility with the Jazz, 2 for 4. Utah also has one minor league hockey team, the Utah Grizzlies, who play at the Maverick Center and compete in the ECHL. Real Salt Lake of Major League Soccer was founded in 2005 and plays their home matches at America First Field in Sandy. ACL remains the only Utah Major League sports team to have won a national championship, having won the MLS Cup in 2009. 2 for 5. ACL currently operates 2 adult teams in addition to the MLS side. Real Monarchs, competing in the third-tier MLS Next Pro, is the official reserve side for ACL. The team began to play in the 2015 season at Rio Tinto Stadium, remaining there until moving to Zions Bank Stadium, located at ACL's training center in Harriman, for the 2018 season and beyond. 2 for 6. 2 for 7. The Utah Royals returned to the National Women's Soccer League (NUSL), the top level of U.S. women's soccer, in 2024. 2 for 8. The original team of that name, which shared ownership with ACL and also played at America First Field, started NUSL play in 2018. 2 for 9. Due to fallout from controversies surrounding ACL's ownership, leading to the club's eventual sale, ACL shuttered the Royals after the 2020 season, selling its player-related assets to a new Kansas City franchise. 250. Before the creation of the Royals, ACL's main women's side had been Real Salt Lake Women, which began play in the Women's Premier Soccer League in 2008 and moved to United Women's Soccer in 2016 before folding in 2019. Utah's highest-level minor league baseball team is the AAA Salt Lake Bees as a part of the Pacific Coast League. The team previously played at Smith's Ballpark in Salt Lake City, but is set to move to Daybreak Field at America First Square in 2025. Utah has 7 universities that compete in Division I of the NCAA. 3 of the schools have football programs that participate in the top-level Football Bowl subdivision, BYU and Utah in the Big 12 Conference, with Utah moving from the Pac-12 Conference in 2024, and Utah State in the Mountain West Conference. In addition, Weber State and Southern Utah SUU compete in the Big Sky Conference of the FCS. Utah Tech, with an FCS football program, and Utah Valley, with no football program, are members of the Western Athletic Conference WAC. Utah Tech football plays in the United Athletic Conference, a football-only partnership between the WAC and the Atlantic Sun Conference ASUN. Most of these schools house select teams outside of their primary conferences. For example, BYU men's volleyball plays in the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation and Utah plays men's lacrosse in the ASUN. Salt Lake City hosted the 2002 Winter Olympics. After early financial struggles and scandals, the 2002 Olympics eventually became among the most successful Winter Olympics in history from a marketing and financial standpoint. Watched by more than 2 billion viewers, the Games ended up with a profit of $100 million. 251 Utah has hosted professional golf tournaments such as the Uniting for Care Classic and currently hosts the Utah Championship. Rugby has been growing quickly in the state of Utah, growing from 17 teams in 2009 to 70 as of 2013 with more than 3,000 players and more than 55 high school varsity teams 2-5 to 5-3. The growth has been inspired in part by the 2008 movie Forever Strong. 253 Utah fields two of the most competitive teams in the nation in college rugby, BYU and Utah, 252. BYU has won the national championship in 2009, 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. Formed in 2017, the Utah Warriors are a Major League Rugby team based in Salt Lake City, 254. Entertainments also, list of appearances of Monument Valley in the media and category, films shot in Utahuta is the setting of or the filming location for many books, films, 255 television series, 255 music videos, and video games. Southern Utah is the site of many westerns, including Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Gunsmoke, along with modern movies like Thelma and Louise and Forrest Gump. The Bonneville Salt Flats are also a popular location, seen in films such as Independence Day and Pirates of the Caribbean, at World's End. Utah's capital, Salt Lake City, is the final location in the video game The Last of Us. 256 The Sundance Film Festival was founded in 1978 and takes place every January in Park City. It is considered one of the Big Five film festivals and is the largest independent film festival in the United States. 257 Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is a 1969 American Western buddy film directed by George Roy Hill and written by William Goldman. Based loosely on fact, the film tells the story of Wild West outlaws Robert Leroy Parker, known as Butch Cassidy Paul Newman, and his partner Harry Longabaugh, the Sundance Kid Robert Redford, who are on the run from a Crackus posse after a string of train robberies. The pair and Sundance's lover, Etta plays Catherine Ross, flee to Bolivia to escape the posse. The film was released on September 24, 1991 and initially received lukewarm reviews from critics, but over the years it has since garnered some retrospective reappraisal. In 2003, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. 5-6. The American Film Institute ranked Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as the 73rd greatest American film on its Office 100 Years, 100 Movies 10th Anniversary Edition list, and number 50 on the original list. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were ranked 20th greatest heroes on Office 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was selected by the American Film Institute as the 7th greatest Western of all time in the Office 10 Top 10 list in 2008. Gunsmoke is an American radio and television Western drama series created by director Norman Macdonnell and writer John Meston. It centered on Dodge City, Kansas, in the 1870s during the settlement of the American West. The central character is lawman Marshal Matt Dillon, played by William Conrad on radio and James Arness on television. The radio series ran from 1952 to 1961. John Dunning wrote that among radio drama enthusiasts, Gunsmoke is routinely placed among the best shows of any kind and any time. 1. It ran unsponsored for its first few years, with CBS funding its production. In 1955, the series was adapted for television and ran for 20 seasons. It ran for half-hour episodes from 1955 to 1961, and one-hour episodes from 1961 to 1975. A total of 635 episodes were aired over its 20-year run, making it the longest-running scripted American primetime television series until being surpassed in episodes by The Simpsons. At the end of its run in 1975, Los Angeles Times columnist Cecil Smith wrote, "Gunsmoke was the dramatization of the American epic legend of the West. Our own Iliad and Odyssey, created from standard elements of the dime novel and the pulp western as romanticized by Buntline, Hart, and Twain. It was ever the stuff of legend." Two 5 made-for-TV movies were produced after its 20-year run. The show won 15 Primetime Emmy Awards as well as other accolades. It was frequently well-received, holding a top 10 spot in the Nielsen ratings for several seasons. The United Kingdom series was initially titled Gun Law: 3 Rates of the Caribbean. At World's End is a 2007 American epic fantasy swashbuckler film directed by Gore Verbinski, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. The direct sequel to Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest 2006, it is the third installment in the Pirates of the Caribbean film series, and follows an urgent quest to locate and save Captain Jack Sparrow Johnny Depp, trapped on a sea of sand in Davy Jones' locker, and convene the Brethren Court in a war against the East India Trading Company. In an uneasy alliance, Will Turner Orlando Bloom, Elizabeth Swann Keira Knightley, Hector Barbosa Jeffrey Rush, and the Black Pearl crew rescue Jack and prepare to fight Lord Cutler Beckett, who controls Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman. 2 sequels to Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, were conceived in 2004, with Elliott and Rossio developing a story arc that would span both films. The film was shot in 2 shoots during 2005 and 2006, the former of which was released as Dead Man's Chest. This also marks the final film of the series to be directed by Verbinski. With a production budget of $300 million, it was the most expensive film ever made at the time of its release. At World's End premiered at the Disneyland Resort on May 19, 2007, then theatrically released in the United States on May 25. The film received mixed reviews from critics, but was the highest-grossing film of 2007, bringing in over $963 million. It was nominated at the 80th Academy Awards for Best Makeup and Best Visual Effects, and won Favorite Movie Actor for Depp at the 2008 Kids' Choice Awards. A standalone sequel, On Stranger Tides, was released in 2011. Dead Men Tell No Tales, released in 2017, followed as a direct continuation of At World's End. Thelma and Louise is a 1991 American crime drama film directed by Ridley Scott and written by Collie Cowery. The film stars Susan Sarandon and Geena Davis as Louise and Thelma, 2 friends who embark on a road trip that ends up in unforeseen circumstances. The supporting cast includes Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, Christopher McDonald, and Brad Pitt. Filming took place in California and Utah from June to August 1990. Following its premiere at the 44th Cannes Film Festival on May 20, 1991, Thelma and Louise was theatrically released in the United States on May 24th. It became a critical and commercial success, receiving 6 nominations at the 64th Academy Awards, with Cowery winning Best Original Screenplay. Scott was nominated for Best Director, and both Sarandon and Davis were nominated for Best Actress. Thelma and Louise has influenced other artistic works and became a landmark of feminist film. In 2006, the American Film Institute ranked it 78 on its list of most inspiring films. In 2016, the Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the National Film Registry, finding it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.